Okay, welcome to another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Actually, I'm Miller here from Warrior Concepts here in East Central Pennsylvania. So if you're in the Sunbury, Selinsgrove, Shamokin, Lewisburg, I don't know, anywhere sandwiched between Harrisburg, our state capital, and Williamsport, stop in and see us. Anyway, so another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday, and so our focus is a phrase that Hatsumi Sensei has used over the years. Keep going, right? And people take that to mean different things, right? Does it mean keep going in your training? Does it always, no matter what, keep going, right? Unless whatever it is that is happening to you has turned off the lights, we keep going, okay? No matter what, right? We figure it out, those kind of things, right? So to kind of set the stage for this episode, I started this Monday during the podcast. We took a look at, the title was Your Hero's Journey, but it was based around a 12-phase framework that was discovered by, I guess this guy's a professor of history, culture, religion, philosophy, that kind of thing, long since passed, but his name was Joseph Campbell. And a bunch of years ago, during his own study into these hero stories and myths and whatnot across cultures. Again, this doesn't belong in any single culture, any single time period or whatever, whether it's mythological stories, Greek, Roman, whatever, right? All the way to modern movies, Star Wars and superhero movies and things like that, right? There is this framework in all of these successful stories, right? It's called the hero's journey, okay? And so if you missed it, you can always, if you're on the YouTube channel, click on the live thing there in the menu bar, and you'll go to a section where, like all my podcasts are, the Kuden podcast and these Whiteboard Wednesdays, and they just kind of leapfrog over each other, okay? So if you go there after this episode, you'll see this one, and then the one immediately preceding it is the one for the same week. It's Monday's Whiteboard Wednesday, right? So we took a look at this framework and how not only there is a logical step-by-step progression for someone who completes the entire journey, okay? Because there are roadblocks along the way, right? There be monsters and then there are hills, right? And so it starts with us being in the ordinary world and not liking what we're experiencing, not liking what we're seeing, even if everything is comfortable. And usually it is, right? It's at least comfortable. But the problem is that there's this internal drive for more, for whether it's more recognition or more of a sense of purpose in life, to be able to do more, be more, that kind of thing, right? So there's this hero's journey. Is everyone on the hero's journey, or could everyone be on the hero's journey? No, right? We might call it the warrior's journey or the warrior's path, right? It's just another way to look at these things. But this training session, this episode, is based on a core part of that hero's journey that resurfaces. It goes by different names, but it resurfaces. And what they are, roadblocks, right? Could show up as, let's see, there's one category, test allies and enemies. There's another one that's called refusing the call, those kind of things, right? So this is built around this premise that not only will there be problems, right? Now we're talking about being actually in the thick of things in a self-protection situation, okay? During Kuden, I talk about this and overall life in general, all those things, right? But in this case, we're talking about, like, you know, fist, feet, knives, whatever are flying, and shit happens. Well, of course it does, okay? Anybody who trains for self-protection, who believes that this stuff is going to make them invincible, is on crack or something equivalent, right? I know that's the delusion. That's what ego wants. It wants to be always in control. It wants to be invincible. That's the lure, right? L-U-R-E, the lure, right? Not the lore, as in like the stories that came before and whatnot, right? And while it may seem like that, please remember that the stories are written by and about the survivors, not the ones who died. Okay, there wasn't a glitch in your audio. I'm trying to filter for YouTube so we don't get banned because of all their soft man bullshit. Anyway, right? So again, today's session is built around a core ninja principle, and that is that when things go wrong, we don't stop, right? You can't stop. If you stop, you die, okay? And that's why we have, like in last night's class, we worked on sword, and there are a couple of sword postures specifically around this idea that it is a high risk, high reward kind of scenario, right? Imagine being in a situation where, the greatest likelihood is this guy's going to get me, right? Or I've tried to bait him. I've tried to use all these strategies and tactics and whatnot to lure him in, to get him to do things, and he just won't take the bait, right? And so I violate one of the principles, right, of weapons work, which is to keep the weapon between me and him, always. And I take up one of these kamae, like ryusui or waki, depending on the lineage, right, where it's behind me and I'm staring at this guy. Like, what maniac does that? Well, there's lots of maniacs out there. But when I put it back there, a look shifts in my eye, right? A lot of people miss these little pieces in kamae that speak of attitude and commitment and projection of intent and those kind of things, because, again, there's a lot of people that are still translating kamae as though they were stances, okay? So, but I put that sword behind me, and the look in my eye is, take your best shot, because I'm taking mine, right? And one of us are going to walk away, right? So I'm giving him the bet, like, it's take your shot, okay? So, but we adapt, right? We keep going, right? Because that's what warriors do. That's what heroes do, right? It's not just about surviving a fight, okay? It's also about surviving life's chaos as well, okay? So it's amazing to me how many people train in the martial arts to overcome the worst possible challenge that they could ever face. If you screw this up, as one of my teachers used to say, if you screw this up, your family better look good in black, or whatever the mourning, mourning, right? Mourning, grieving clothing at funerals is in your culture. That might not be black, might be some other color, right? That's the worst you could possibly face. And then in everyday life, they just quit on a regular basis. Fucking quit, right? Just this mindset is an all the time mindset, not whenever it suits us mindset, whenever it feels good mindset. Okay. So again, during Kuden, I went into this much more deeply, right? And one of the most important lessons in this hero's journey, in this warrior's journey, right, is that defining moments come when everything seems to fall apart. Defining moments come. Think about the movies that we watch, the things that really draw us in, right? The defining moment for the hero is when, like, everything is on the line. And they've got that red pill, blue pill moment. Pull the trigger or fold, okay? That's not only the allure in the movies for us, but see, these things speak to an archetype inside of us, inside of a lot of us. Some people don't like, action movies and those kind of things, right? And even if it's fictionalized, even if you look at it and go, oh shit, dude, we would never survive that. We can't stop watching because it's speaking to something primordial in us. It's the thing that drives us to want to be the guy or the girl in any shit situation that is there to be the protector, is there to be the guy or the girl, right? It's what drives us. It's what motivates us. If it isn't, then it's ego, right? I want to get those high belt ranks and stuff because that'll impress everybody who doesn't really know, right? They just kind of buy into the myths and whatnot, okay? So again, defining moments come when everything seems to fall apart. Everything's on the line, right? When pain, when fear, or failure hit, right? That's when the hero steps up. That's when the hero chooses to keep going, okay? And again, Hatsuma Sensei's used this term, this phrase, countless times in my training, right? He used to end a demonstration or an explanation or whatever and say, okay, play, right? But that's another aspect of this in making the training enjoyable, so you don't become a paranoid, schizophrenic, or whatever, right? But this is the key to things, right? When do you keep going in your training? Well, based on his definition, if you've been working at this for at least 10 years, seriously, earnestly, consistently, not train for a class or 3 or a month or 3 or whatever, take time off, a lot of people say they've been training for a certain amount of time, and they started a certain amount of time ago, but what they have is, it's kind of like reviving somebody who's dying, right? You got the little monitor caught up, and it's don't beep, don't beep, right? So if you've been doing this earnestly, consistently, trying to figure this stuff out to get it for at least 10 years, and you're not, then he says maybe go try something else. 10 years, okay? Some people have a hard enough time keeping their attention on something for 10 minutes, okay? So anyway, all right, so that's not the problem I want to talk about. The problem I want to talk about is some common student struggles, right, that happen while we're training, but can derail the training. It's not that we're not learning things. It's not that we're not engaged in things. It's not that we're not getting good at certain skill levels or whatnot. But are we really focused on the problem? The problem is not defending against your uke or doing prearranged dance moves and whatnot, known as a kata by whatever Japanese name or whatever, right? Okay. So there are some, what we could call them bad habits. There are these aspects of what a couple of my teachers used to call, back in the day, we used to call this, and we still do in my dojo, call it dojo syndrome, right? The syndrome is like an illness, but it's like this, it's like a habit pattern. It's like this thing that gets in the way. It creates a limitation, those kind of things, right? So a dojo syndrome is when people kind of all start doing things the same way, and they all have this mindset where they're skipping over things or they're doing things a certain way, believing that they're actually working on the problem. Okay? So just quickly, a couple of these things. One is freezing or stopping when a technique doesn't go as planned. Like as soon as the technique stops. Now, let me back up just a little bit, because we do have a training model, right? So beginners should be working on getting the technique right, whatever the teacher demonstrated or the kata they're working on, whatever the model is, right? No variations, although we do break that a little bit. But if something goes wrong, okay, reset, start again, right? Because take little steps, right? But at a certain point in training, even for my beginners, I tell them as soon as they forget what to do, or they're hanging out for a second or two, which is already 4 or 5 times too long, right? Immediately step away and go to kamae. Just practice disengaging, go to kamae. We'll talk about that as we go, all right? But freezing and stopping. Somebody will stop mid-technique. Ah, shit, I screwed up, right? And then they'll go and reset. Like you're going to say that to a guy that's trying to beat, break, or kill you. Excuse me, Mr. Bad Guy, I really fucked that up. Can you just start again, right? Oh, give me that real knife. Here's a rubber one. Okay, so that's one. Okay, next one is consciously or unconsciously avoiding pain, confusion, or discomfort in training. Somebody get confused. There's a technique that they don't like, whether it could be rolling, it could be counter strikes, whatever, right? And so they'll. Can you hold on a sec? I've got to go to the bathroom. Not me. That's what they'll say to their training partner, right? Or I'm going to jot this down in my notes. And then they wait until that painful, confusing thing is over, and it resets, so the teacher's back in lecture mode, and then they come back over hoping that when it restarts again, that's not a part of it. Or they find out that you're working on a certain thing in class, and so they decide whether or not they're going to go to class that night, okay, or that afternoon, morning, whatever, right? But there's this kind of steering around things, okay, there is a time and a place in everyone's training for what we call soft training, right? But it is typically, and it was put in place by Hatsumi Sensei, for people to get it in their thick skulls and to get over prior training or fear-induced action or whatever, where they're going to overdo things and damage their training partners. To understand that until we can do things with just the body itself, we don't really understand when it's appropriate to add a little more, right? It's just like overkill, go at it or whatever. And we need to understand that the more we put into it, if he avoids, the more we need to stop. It's like the faster the ship is going, right? And it's coming into pier. If it's going too fast or the winds are cross, right? They're not going to be able to slow it down and stop it to where it just kind of bumps against those little bumper things on the pier, right? It's just going to slam into it and tear things apart, right? Itself as well, right? So there is a time and a place for these things, but people can kind of get stuck, and it's this avoidance mode kind of thing, right? To go on with this, this dojo syndrome kind of thing. Again, it's only doing what feels good, only doing what we're good at, right? That goes for practice sessions too, solo or otherwise, okay? Avoiding drills or anything that challenges comfort zones, right? Or our sense of control over things, okay? We're supposed to lose control. That's what forces the need for the development of new skill sets. Mental, physical, timing, all those kind of things, right? And it also comes up where it's not just that momentary, got to go to the bathroom, let me go jot this in my notes, whatever. It could also be the reason that people end up drifting away from training when it stops being easy or it stops being exciting. Okay. So, and again, right, several of my teachers, and I tend to choose teachers that are hard asses because they cut through the bull and they don't allow me to drag that crap out because we're all prone to it. We're all susceptible to it, right? So they just cut that very, very quickly, right? So anyway, that's my choice, right? Anyway, before I go on with this, I'm going to jump into some combat realities. I'm going to take a look at some tactical solutions, and then talk about a little drill example over here. And then, again, this is just an example. I want to revisit a 5-phase sparring development, sparring training model that I got from several teachers and then further developed it for my students, that we take students through that avoids we're either doing form, we're doing self-defense, or we're jumping in and we're doing sparring, and none of those things look alike. Okay, they look like we're practicing 3 different things. Okay, but I want to revisit this sparring model that we have. It's a phased kind of thing, so we can better understand how we might create drills in there. Okay, and I'm going to zip through this. This is like the 30,000 foot, right? That's the dirigible over. Or the blimp over the sports stadium, getting the full view, right? You get into a program, you get with a teacher, and then they take you through these. I will be giving you some things. And also, if you stay to the end, I'll also explain about a resource. It's free. It's a resource that I made for my students that kind of takes this, puts it on a 1-page kind of cheat sheet for you, that whether you ever train with me or not, you can revisit it and insert some things into your training. Okay. All right. So again, before we jump into that, don't forget, like, subscribe. You know how this works, right? Helps me, helps getting our videos seen more on the different platforms. It helps you because now the platform that you're on knows that you're interested in stuff like this and from me. So as soon as we put something up, you'll get notified. And it helps other people that are like-minded and want the same kind of training at the same level. Okay, so it's a win-win-win. All right. Anyway, okay. So get the problem. All right. So again, just to drive the point home, right? Real growth happens in the uncomfortable spaces, right? The parts you want to avoid, right? Avoiding them is a form of quitting. And in real combat, hesitation or quitting is what? It's not failure. It's fatal. Right? You can come back from failure. Fatal, it's kind of permanent unless you buy into the whole rebirth, reincarnation kind of thing, right? Or you're going someplace happy. Either way, no second chances here. Okay? All right, so let's jump into these realities of real combat, okay? While I could approach this from the perspective of this is what my teachers taught, I have been in real combat, right? I could say high school fights and those kind of things, but during those days of my life, I lost most of them because even the ones that were one-on-one, I was surrounded by people that were on his side, shoving me in because I wasn't a fighter. I didn't like to engage in those kind of things. As a matter of fact, with all the beating mentally, emotionally, and physically kind of shit that was going on at home, I was a really meek individual. Okay? So I'm not talking about school fights, bar fights, those kind of things. I didn't get a handle on this stuff until I was in the military, and I was a military cop. And then based on this stuff and my willingness to step into greater and greater realms of threat and violence, counterterrorism and all those kind of things, right? So these are coming from partly teachers teaching them, but they're coming from a perspective of, yeah, they're right, been there, okay? So anyway, all right, so I've got 6 of them for you, okay? And these are things that we have to keep in mind. These are key truths that students must accept. I'm usually the laid-back person that tells people, look, do whatever you want. These are just suggestions. This is really important to understand when you're learning, especially in the Bujinkan under Hatsumi Sensei or the master teachers. There are a couple of teachers, there are a couple of soke that will very, very plainly say, if you screw this up, you're going to die, right? But that's not the Japanese way. Japanese teachers will typically say, I suggest that this is a good idea, right? Because it's considered to be rude to be direct, which for Westerners, if they're not direct and tell me I have to do it, then it's a suggestion, then it's an option, okay? But when a Japanese teacher suggests something, or they tell you it's a good idea, or whatever, they're telling you to do it, right? So got to be careful, right? You have to be able to translate the communications of a different language and a different culture if you're learning something that came through that, from that. And Budo, as we're learning it, Japan, China, along the Silk Road, back to India, Tibet, those kind of places, right? It's not the same, okay? All right, anyway, key truths that students must accept, right? 1, combat's messy. Okay, combat's messy, right? I'm not talking about glove combat. Even that is messy. We've seen people with their faces all bloody and things broken and all that kind of stuff, but it's messy, okay? There are no clean techniques. I know what the kata look like. The kata are ideals. The kata are potentials when you've got all the shit together. But there are 3 levels of transmission for every technique we learn. Most people stop at the first one, which is learning the step-by-step, okay? In the SHU stage, S-H-U, okay? To copy, preserve, okay? But there are 3 levels of transmission. That first level looks very clean, very crisp, very in control, right? Got this shit. He does X, I do X, Y, Z, and it's all over, and I can go walking away feeling good, nipples hard, toes curled, all kinds of stuff, right? Whatever. But the reality is, well, we'll get to that reality in a minute, okay? It's not only messy, it's chaotic. Right? I want you to think about something when you think about a kata, whether it's something that is from the scrolls, it has a name, Seon, Tangeki, Kyogi, whatever, right? Ichimonji no kata. These are frameworks or examples that a teacher gave us, or that past masters passed down, right? They're learning tools. And again, they make everything look clean. But see, as we move up through second transition or transmission of a technique, right? That's where henka start to come in. That's where adaptation starts to come in, because shit can happen. Why does shit happen? Because you're not fighting a Moron, right? He's not the training bag that you get to practice ground and pound on, right? Real attackers resist, counter, evade, change speed, change tactics, set you up before you even got started. Their friends step in, pull a weapon before, in the middle of, or after. It seems like things have started or ended. It's very chaotic, right? So when we think of kata, one way that I have my intermediate advanced students think of kata is a way to make sense out of the chaos. Right? But we don't do that by learning the step-by-step. We learn the step-by-step so we can reverse engineer the kata and understand how it's forcing him to have to deal with us instead of us having to deal with him. We still do, right? But it allows us to make sense out of the chaos. And then we can take control of the chaos, okay? But from a beginner's standpoint, we have to realize that the enemy sets the rules, not you. Okay? Most people, when they think of sport or competition, combat, or even self-defense, they tend to think of those kind of rules. The rules have been set by somebody else, and the two combatants or three combatants or whatever agree to them. No punching below the belt, no gouging eyes, no biting, no whatever's on the list of 35 or 150 or whatever rules that might currently be in place for some of these things, right? Both people agree to the rules when they step in, and they bow and they, okay, make it a clean fight, those kind of things, right? You're acknowledging that, okay? Except in a real world situation, from my experience, and I face guns, knives, clubs, multiple attackers, whatever, okay? Way bigger than me, way stronger than me. He sets the rules. And he has set the rules before he attacked, before he engaged. Okay? One of the things that teachers used to say is they used to, like a pop quiz, right? What do you know about this situation? Well, I know he's trying to hit me, hurt me, whatever. I know how I feel. I know what rules I might be restricted by, like when I was a cop or security and whatnot. I know those things. Okay, what do you not know? Right? And then we'd go through a list of these things. And one of those things is, I don't know how far he's willing to go. Right? All of these things should temper our training. When we hear a news story about an attack, when we overhear somebody just discussing, oh, man, when I'm in it, right, I do X, Y, Z. Shit. I'm betting, based on human nature, he's not the only person that does those things or has that kind of strategic thinking or whatever. So, right, where would that be in this kata? Where would that be in this training model? Where would that be in this situation or scenario? Or where could it be? Can I change any kata based on the attacker mindset? Most people talk about attacker mindset like there's only one. If we just use the mandala and the five elements, there's minimum 4. Okay? And those things dictate how this person does everything from punching, kicking, to engaging, to setting things up before or not, or whatever. Okay? So messy, chaotic, it's unscripted. All right? The kata is a script, but again, it's a learning vehicle. Okay? So people will go, well, you can't use a kata in a fight to win. Not intentionally, but what I do might come out looking pretty much like a friggin' kata. Okay? I remember doing whipping a mushadori on somebody long time ago wish I thought he was my friend. And I didn't do it intentionally, but after going back and remembering how that thing happened, and he was coming in with different things, and I'm guarding these things off with a hoko. And then the moment where I felt things start to happen, as I moved for that, my other arm kind of extended to keep that other side from coming at me so I could catch this. Like, what I did to him was very much like a kata called katamaki. I didn't intend to do katamaki. It wasn't exactly katamaki, but it was really close. Okay? So before we write them off, how about if what we're acknowledging is I cannot intentionally follow a script because it's his movie. He's the writer, the director, the producer, and all that. I'm just somebody that was hired to come in and be the fall guy so he could look good. And I don't like his script, so I'm going to change things, right? Next one. This is a huge one, okay? The attacker is not your friend. Well, duh, sensei. Now, some people are going to go, well, duh. Of course he's not my friend. He's trying to hurt me, right? And other people are going to go, well, no, dude. I was attacked by my friend once. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the way people train in the dojo. This is a part of that dojo syndrome. The way they interact with their uke. And I don't mean you beat the living shit out of your uke and stuff like that. What I'm talking about is they'll make a mistake and then they'll look at the partner and go, shit, let's start again. Right? At a certain level in our training, if you're in here, you'll know when you cross that threshold, because a senior, if you do that, let's restart. Your senior will reach out and go and tap you on the forehead, or throw like a kick feint or something, and the person laughs it off, and but see, very, very quickly they learn if they've made a mistake, they drift out of range when they say, I need to start again. Okay? So there's an acknowledgement of a reality that's in that moment. Okay? Another way this shows up is we'll execute the throw, or we'll take the person down and lock them up, and then we'll start freaking just laughing, talking, ha ha ha, whatever, right? Or we'll go into pensive mode. Wonder if that's Sensei. Is this the partner on the floor? If he's not locked up, should absolutely do something. Remind you, flick you, pinch you, reach up, and tag something that's a little hot, whatever. Right? What I mean by that is they drop their zanshi. Right? That lingering awareness that they're supposed to have, it's not there. Right? And I get it. Beginners, or if you are a beginner to a given technique, no matter what your rank is, if you've been given a new technique or a new kata that you've never done before, the kata still runs through shuhari-mabu. This isn't about you. Right? There's a macrocosmic thing. There's your progress, beginner, intermediate, advanced. But there's also this microcosm kind of thing where every technique that you own is either in beginner stages, you just learned it, you know it step by step. It's in intermediate stages, right? You're working through variations, you're working on breaking, adapting, adjusting, those kind of things. Or you have transcended the need for it. You get it, right? And when I say transcended, I don't mean you determine that you have it. I mean, it's so much a part of who you are, so wired into muscle memory here and here that you can't not do it. It's like when we learn ninja walking. Do you do that all the time? I don't mean the stealth stuff. Do you use your legs that way, taijutsu like, all the time, or only in the dojo when you're wearing the gi? I don't know. I don't know your context. All right? So the attacker is not your friend. So at a certain point in our training, we need to train as though the uke is not an uke. At a certain point in our training, the uke becomes teki. T-E-K-I, teki. Okay? Teki means attacker. It means aggressor. Right? So at a certain point in training, our training partner, as teki, now gets to resist, now gets to try to escape from something, now gets to jam up your technique, now gets to be more and more like an actual attacker and call you on mistakes. The only way to fix mistakes is to have them and to fix them, right? So again, one problem that people have is they avoid that possibility. The other problem they have is if they have a partner or a senior who will call them on their mistakes, they go find another training partner. I understand finding another training partner if the training partner you have is not doing things like an authentic attacker would. I don't mean speed. I don't mean, trying to knock your teeth out or whatever. I mean, they're not. Here's this guy who's putting things behind there and trying to hit you, and this hand is ready to go. And then there's the guy who throws a good serious punch this way and drops this arm like it's dead. Like, what the hell, right? This is going to be a one and done kind of thing, right? Or you got the guy who does this because they're afraid of getting hit or hurt, and they do this. Those training partners, you either educate and get with the program so you can train properly, or you replace them. But the ones who call you on your mistakes, even if you could only find one good training partner like that, you treat them like gold. Because you want to make mistakes in the dojo and be caught there so you can fix them, and not out there where somebody's going to make your wife a widow. Okay? Your kids call somebody else daddy. Anyway, all right, number next, right? Pain and confusion will happen. Pain and confusion will happen. Take a shot to the head, scrambles your brain a little bit, or it looks like he's a certain type of fighter, and then all of a sudden he does something else, and there's that little glitch because maybe some assumption got in there or whatever. Okay, I got hit. Whatever. Okay. Again, I keep repeating this during these different episodes, but at least one teacher, not counting Hatsumi Sensei, has told us over and over and over again, right, across the years, right? Your job is to not get hit. Your job is to not get kicked. Your job is to not get cut, shot, whatever. Right? I know, right? That sounds fucking backwards. That doesn't happen to you in a kata. Well, not in the beginner's form, not in first level transmission, right? But your job is to not let those things happen. Now, you do everything you can to not have it happen, but sometimes the best you have is mitigation or being able to ride it off, right? Because you're going to take that shot. But I learned this saying when I was still a white belt in this art. Often, general with an iron fist has a glass jaw. That's for those people who like hurting other people, but don't do well when they get hit themselves. Okay? So what ends up happening is these things happen, and they fold. Fold, what I say on Monday during Kuden. They fold worse than a bad piece of Japanese origami. Right? Okay? So pain and confusion will happen. And the last one is things rarely go as planned. Okay? Things rarely go as planned. Okay? So it's not that we should have a plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, whatever, right? But that's where in the intermediate phases, when we're working through the hot level with adaptation, with Henka, those kind of things. For a lot of people, Henka is a cop-out. Henka is everything is Henka because they can't do the damn form right. Okay? So everything is Henka, right? But they're not really learning it. They don't know the difference between Henka and just making shit up. And Hatsumi Sensei was very clear about this. Huge difference between an authentic Henka of a technique and something else. Just doing whatever, okay? Could you win with the other, with whatever? Yeah, of course, but don't call it Ninpo Taijutsu, Budo Taijutsu, whatever, okay? Because some people can be very lucky, or they're just tougher than nails, and so whatever, okay? So, but things rarely go as planned. That's why we focus on the principles and concepts and extrapolating the lessons from the kata, from the lessons, so that when things don't go as planned, we have planned or we've wired in answers. I'll cover some of these with the tactical solutions. But again, you can't rely on perfect conditions. You guys know that, right? You know that, right? So you have to train to survive the worst conditions. Okay? Some of you have heard this before because you're regulars, but for the new ones, I remember when I was fairly low in rank in the military, and I was at this one unit, and we had this upcoming field training exercise to do, right? It was a 3-day, we called them an RTEP, right? It's an Army Tactical something. Right? It's going into the field. We're out there for like 72 hours, and you get no sleep during those 72 hours. Okay? It's just straight through, right? It's a test, right? Does that mean we didn't fall asleep? No, but if you did, you're lucky if you got 5 or 10 minutes at a pop, and then you learn to adapt to that shit too. So this thing is coming up. I hated going to the field. If I wanted to go to the field and do that kind of shit, I'd have signed up to be infantry, but I didn't. I signed up to become an Army cop. But Army cops are ultimately infantry when the shit happens, right? What most people don't know about MPs is that in an actual combat theater, MPs are either guarding rear area sensitive stuff that if the bad guy breaks through the main lines, they're the last ditch defense to protect this shit before it falls into the wrong hands. Or they're way ahead of or right on the edge of the forward line. So when the artillery and the tanks and the infantry get to a certain point in crossroads and whatnot, the lone MP at that crossroad is pointing in the direction that they're supposed to go. But you know how combat works. That line shifts all the time, and that MP could find themselves like in a half an hour, could find themselves 5 miles behind enemy lines, right? In the wrong direction. Because everything is constantly moving, right? It's chaos, it's messy, shit changes, right? So anyway, but I didn't like the field. When I went to the field, I was really good at stuff. Often, by the time I was a sergeant, we were out in the field and supposed to be doing like land navigation, which is map reading and all that kind of stuff, and stealth and things. And I remember in this one unit, everybody, the people were divided up into teams, and everybody was arguing over who was going to get me on their team. Because I use this stuff, right? So stealth and my map reading and shooting in azimuth and back azimuth and all that kind of stuff, right? Navigating around freaking obstacles. Anyway, everybody was fighting over it, and the cadre, the instructors went, no, Miller's staying with us. He's going to be on the aggressor team. They're like, what? Because we've been watching you guys last couple of field things. He did all the work. You got credit for learning something you still don't know. So now that he's not going to be with any one of you, you go prove that you know this stuff. Okay? But way back, during that time, I was still sleeping in the fucking tent, freezing my ass off at night, getting up in damp clothes, whatever. Okay? But this thing was coming up, and then they were calling for this major storm front to come in. And I, in my low rank, greenhorn kind of attitude, went, yes, so that's going to be postponed. One of my leaders said, are you nuts? No, I've been praying for that. I'm like, why would you pray for that? Very simple. He said, because if you can do it under the worst conditions, then everything else is easier by nature, and everything else is a cakewalk. So we train for the worst so that if we're in the worst, we're prepared, but everything else less than that is easier by degree. The problem for most people is they train for good enough. They think their technique is good enough. They think their technique, right? Good enough for what? Good enough for passing the test for the belt. Good enough for hiding the mistakes from the teacher. Good enough to feel good. Good enough to impress others, right? Right? So anyway, again, rarely rely on perfect conditions, right? So my Shinobi Kai people, if you don't know by now, and my online long distance guys, we're training for the worst, right? And if we go by statistics, again, once a cop, always a cop. In the United States, and quite likely in most areas in the world, right? There is an assault that occurs about once every 11 seconds, right? Most of those are easily handled by what we consider to be basics. When I say most, I mean 95 to 98% of these attacks can be easily handled by what we consider to be basics. It's the other 2 to 5% where he's out on parole, not gone back to jail. He's not leaving a witness. All kinds of shit. He's just a enraged psycho, whatever, right? That 2 to 5%, that's what my Shinobi Kai, that's what my Ninpo Elite group and whatnot, that's what they're training for, because if you can handle them, then the other 95 to 98%, it's a cakewalk. I don't mean it's easy, I just mean it's way easier to handle than the killer or the guy that has like mapped out how they're going to attack you. And if you're not already dead in that moment, you've got to come from being so much the underdog that for most people it's an impossible situation. Okay, that's what ninja trained for, not fair fights. Okay, all right. So let's look at some tactical solutions. Okay, so what I want to take a look at here are some concepts, and we'll tie this to a couple of other little things. This is just going to be quick, down and dirty, but this will start to lead into like training. Okay, so the first one is the ability to reset the fight to zero. Okay, reset the fight to zero, right? So what we're talking about here is breaking contact, repositioning, and reestablishing kamae, right? When a technique goes sideways, right? When it fails, you miss, it's interrupted, he resists, whatever. The moment you don't know what to do next, or you're stuck, right? We do something to bail, to reset the fight to zero. Now, this contradicts an ideal, which is once it begins, you don't let him reset to zero. You don't let him reset, okay? Because if you get him into an overwhelm situation, he's going to want to reset, or if he runs off, shit, he could be running to his truck, grabbing a shotgun and coming back, or he could be going to grab 2 or 3 of his friends and coming back and attacking your house after midnight, whatever, okay? See, difference from sport fights, yeah? Okay? So I don't let him reset to zero once he starts, okay? But if I get stuck, okay, instead of trying to scramble or get my brain to lock up or hesitate or whatever, I want to break free, reset to zero, okay? Now, can you? I don't know, maybe, okay? A lot of people ignore techniques that are so simple, they're not even written in the scrolls, right? Like, but he has you and you can't move. Really? You can't spit in his face? Even if you're off balance and whatnot, you can do something, right? This guy looks like he's homophobic. This is good, right? Whatever, right? To change his state, to break his kamae, whatever, okay? Right. So this gets tied to this concept of Jiyu, right? That Jiyu is actually this kanji, two kanji that come before a lot of the kata that people didn't translate when they made the kata list. It comes before the kata. And so the Jiyu means or implies to move freely, right? When Jiyu is there, what it's implying at the beginning of the kata is that something came before this and it just kind of happened, and then the point where the uke is throwing whatever the kata says he's throwing, you're in the moment, you can catch that and then do things. So Jiyu could imply that there was a previous technique you tried that failed, all kinds of stuff. But Jiyu at its base means the ability to move freely. Natsumi Sensei has taught that for years, right? So freedom to move, reset, re-engage from a fresh tactical advantage. That's also the freedom, okay? A lot of people get so stuck on the official way, the right way, what's ninjutsu, what's bujinkan, whatever, and what's not, that they can't bring themselves to do something that isn't on the list. Right? We must be able to move freely. We must be able to think freely, right? Okay. Watch all the arguments online, political, religious, whatever, right? Because people are not thinking freely. They think they are, but they're not. All right. So the lesson here is that resetting doesn't mean retreat. Okay? It means creating a new opening. We'll talk about this here a little bit more deeply in another solution here, right? So in the fight, there is no pause button. We get that, right? Only opportunities to start over. Okay? If you are not dead or unconscious, figure it out. One way to do it is to just reset. Okay? Again, we'll dive into that a little bit more deeply, but the point here is reestablish Kamai. Rule number 1, reset to 0 means go to Kamai. Reestablish initial safe distance, take up Kamai, make him have to restart the attack. Okay? All right. Number 2, right? Pain and shock management. Okay? Pain and shock management, another term that's used in some sort of self-defense circles for this is stress inoculation. Okay? But in this case, what we're talking about is shock, surprise, right? They got to jump on you or whatever. You got hit, you didn't expect it, didn't see it coming, or they like you thought it was a fist fight. Next thing you know, there's a knife in his hand or a gun's coming out, whatever. Okay, that causes a pause, right? There is a phrase. It is in Ninjutsu History and Tradition, the first book on Ninjutsu, credited to Hatsumi Sensei, but it was actually co-written with Stephen Hayes way back, right? First one in English. In there, Hatsumi Sensei introduces this concept of Banpen Fukyo. It's actually a Buddhist thing. It's actually a Mikyo concept, right? Banpen Fukyo, no surprises. In that book, it's translated as no surprises for the ninja, right? But no surprises. It doesn't mean that you can't be surprised. What it means is that you understand that you can be surprised, so therefore you have trained to adapt to and recover from shock and surprise. Okay? You have skills and means that while your brain's trying to reset, you're doing something like, oh, I don't know, going to Kamai, okay? Or not something bang over here, right? Part of my attention, and I know where it is, right? But I haven't been hit, right? Please know that if you hear a gunshot or an explosion, you don't feel a burning sensation, whatever, and you're still conscious, right? You're still processing things. It didn't hit you, okay? It's not like the movies. Bang, oh. You never hear the one that gets you, okay? This is coming from somebody who's been there, okay? Didn't get me, but I promise you, the pain and whatnot from that near miss, when this perpetrator was wrestling for my weapon, he took it out of my holster, we're wrestling for it, and he put it to my head, forced it to my head, and I moved when he pulled the trigger, and I still had to disarm him and take that from him and not drop in a fetal position, pissing my pants, so he could shoot me and then go kill somebody else with my gun, okay? At the range in self-defense training, and people are like, oh, you gotta watch out for the flash burns, powder burns, stuff like that. Let me tell you how highly overrated powder burns are. I didn't feel the powder burns on the side of my face, my ear, and the side of my face until a day and a half after that incident when I was at home recovering. And the first thought I had when it was stinging, because it was summertime, was that like I got sunburned just here. And then I'm thinking, okay, driving, patrol and whatnot. But wait a minute, we have left-hand drive. It should be this side of my face with the sunburn, if that's true, not over here. And I had to work backwards to, holy shit, I got powder burn. Never felt it in the instant. Never felt day and a half. Okay, lost a little bit of hearing for a while because of the ringing in my ears. Okay, the world shook and vibrated when that shot went off next to my head. But that did not relieve me of the necessity to wrestle that fucking weapon back away from this dipshit so he didn't kill me and somebody else with it. Okay, shot. Pain, same thing. Okay, I understand nothing hurts worse than pain, but a lot of people avoid certain types of training. One of the biggest ones is rolling. I don't like rolling. Why not? I just don't like it. Because you're not going to do it long enough until you either accept the pain or you just get good at it and you learn to roll on muscle and not bone and those kind of things, right? So I get it. We human beings are wired to be averse to pain and to be attracted to pleasure. But in Nikyo and in Inpo, we have to counter that natural tendency or we will fall prey to the same thing that holds everybody else in lower levels of ability. We have to, it's a constant battle. Our own inner child, our own ego, our own desires for everything to be great and to not have to deal with anything that's painful or uncomfortable is one of the biggest enemies we will ever fight. Okay? All right, so this gets tied to Fudoshi, immovable heart, right? The mind that is unshakable in the face of fear and discomfort, okay? Look, pain is information, okay? It's not a stop signal. Just because it hurts or something isn't usable anymore doesn't mean that, okay? And this is a big difference. I covered this, was it last week or the week before, when we were discussing the difference between a self-defense situation and conventional competitive fighting. What's the first thing that happens when somebody gets hurt over a certain threshold? Or even at the dojo? Everybody stops and rushes in to make sure that person's okay. Shit doesn't happen on the street, I promise you. Right? So, pain, it's information, and the warrior uses it to stay alive. Okay? I know there's this old cliche saying, but it's true. Right? Pain reminds you that you're still alive. Okay. All right. Next one. Tactical flow. Okay. Adapt and overcome. Tactical flow. Okay. See, plan B. Okay. Underneath the laptop right here that my camera's attached to is a box with a bunch of other markers. That's all the other plans, just in case this one runs out of fucking ink too. Okay? So anyway, so tactical flow is, the concept here is seamless transitions when techniques fail. That means that we don't stop and have to reset and think or whatever. As soon as something fails, we do this thing, okay? So for instance, beginners get introduced to Kyusho, a couple of pressure points and whatnot, in Module 1 in our Foundations of Ninja Self-Defense Mastery program. It's our Module 1 in our White Belt to Black Belt program. They're taught that if they now when they're first trying to learn, figure out where it is or whatever, right? That's one thing. But when we start doing a little bit of randori training and the partner grabs them and they have to hit this thing, a common problem people have is they'll hit it and then they'll look at their partner and they'll go, does that hurt? Does that hurt? Right? Bad guy, if it does hurt, he's going to jack you harder. If it doesn't hurt, he's going to laugh at you and jack you harder. Okay? So the lesson is you get one. You hit it, and if nothing happens, they don't flinch, nothing happens, they don't stall, stop, or whatever, immediately do something else. Either go to kamae, or I go from here to hitting them, or whatever, and then I go out of there. I don't keep trying to do the same thing over and over, okay? You ever see those coffee cups? Insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again, hoping that it'll work, okay? So tactical flow is, again, the example, a couple of examples, right? If a lock fails, then hit him, right? The moment it fails, okay? If a strike is blocked, right? Let's say I throw a strike and he throws a block up there, okay? From right here, as he blocks that, scoop it, turn it into a throw, or a musodori or something like that, right? If I'm breaking his balance and he catches that, right? Immediately I reposition to regain advantage. Right? In our Mod Mod 3, yeah. We're using Jumonji and Kosei and Bobi and things like that. Very direct, in the moment, no wind up kind of things. That's where a lot of the throws are. And so we teach Ganseki and a variation. As a matter of fact, there's 4 variations. There's Ganseki Nage, Ganseki Ori, Ganseki Osai, and Ganseki Otoshi. So throwing a big rock, breaking a big rock, pulling a big rock, and dropping a big rock. Right? They're all variations of this theme. Right? And then Osoto Nage, Osoto Gake, so big outer reaping throw, big outer scooping, or Ganseki, Osoto Gake, so sweeping kind of thing, kick the leg out. Then there's this little drill that people are given. It's called 4-directional throwing. So if they're doing forward or back, forward or rear throws, and this person jams it up, right? There's something they're taught to do that in 99.5% of the time, it works like a gem. In the other times, it at least breaks them enough that they have to catch themselves, gives you another opportunity now because they're catching themselves, but it gives you an out, right? So you're not trapped in there fighting this other person's resistance, okay? There's another drill that we give everyone, which is a timeline drill to show how those 4 versions of Ganseki fit in, because there's 4 points in time that he could resist the throw or counter the throw. So the next one in line becomes the next opportunity to throw. So the beginner sees them as 4 different types of Ganseki. The master sees 4 points in time based on where the resistance happens, where the lockup happens, or when he tries to counter. And the next one just becomes the catch. So eventually what ends up happening is your uke or your students will start to say things like, shit, there's always something. Well, if there isn't, then I'm dead or well on my way to dying. The trick is to rewire the brain and to rewire the muscle memory so that you don't have to think about the next one. You can feel it. It's just there. Okay? All right. So the lesson here is that ninja doesn't clash with failure. They flow around it. Okay? They just adapt to what is actually happening, not what they pre-scripted and they have to carry that thing out. The lesson here is my feelings about to him, if I could use the words, and sometimes I do as you choose. My response will be based on your assault, not my style, my desires, my wishes, my need to win, my fear of failure, whatever. Right? And I live my life that way. Treat everyone based on, okay, what's the golden rule, sensei? Yeah, the golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. See, that's about me. I treat other people nicely because I don't want to be treated badly. How about if I just treat everyone appropriately to their ability, intent, or willingness to damage me? That's warrior respect. I position myself and I respond based on their actions, not based on. Anyway, next. This is a big one. This is tactical for training, right? This is engineering mistakes. I don't mean the mistakes of engineers. Engineering mistakes. What I mean by this is we train to purposely create mistakes that we have to solve, right? So at a certain stage, before full blown out sparring and all that kind of stuff, we look at points in the kata where he could resist, where he can counter, where, whatever, right? And then we look at, okay, if he does this and jams this up, based on where we are, timing, flow, positioning, the environment around us or whatever, what could we do? And then we work those, okay? Because our other option is we wait until the world fucking throws something at us chaotically, and then we have to hope that we're in the moment, paying attention to it. We don't get shocked or surprised, and we work it out. That's how some folks do it, where they don't have the kata models to work off of. They just do all waza. It's just like mix it up, do whatever, because that's how fights really are. It takes them longer to fix mistakes because they're always in the moment, in real time, and they don't pull things out and just kind of work it for the most part. But by my experience, your experience is different. Just ignore everything I just said. Okay. So instead of waiting until the world catches up and throws something at us, and then we have to hope that not only we're mindful in the moment and we didn't already zip past it and we've lost or we failed, but we remembered the thing we wanted to do, which is against the odds, because the thing that we normally do, since we do it a lot, we're predisposed, brain's wired, body's wired, to do that thing automatically, subconsciously and unconsciously, before we get a chance to consciously try something else. So by manufacturing, we do this in Mikyo as well. Okay, we use visualization to visualize past mistakes, would have, could have, should have situations, future possibilities. You do the same thing in your training. We visualize that thing happening and then visualize ourselves doing the thing, so we can load up subconscious storehouse, right? The subconscious with these options that when we're in that moment, there's a better chance that very quickly, subconsciously, the body's already driven into action in the direction, because it's more based on feel than based on left brain thinking, which is slow. Okay? So we're deliberately creating moments where techniques fail. And we force students to adapt in real time. Or, since we're taking control of our own training, we force ourselves to have to adapt in real time. Okay? Why? Builds adaptability under stress, and it prepares for the chaos of a real attack. We already went over those things. Messy, chaotic, unscripted, Okay? Yeah? All right. So, as an example, drill, again, whatever the exercises that we're doing, right? The uke, resist, or at some point mid-technique, counters. Okay? Could be at the beginning, could be the middle, could be near the end, whatever. And what the tori is practicing to do is to adapt instantly. So what we might do is take that kata, take that henka, where that resistance or that counter happens at a very specific point, and turn it into a momentary kata. We're going to drill the hell out of that, so that we practice at the moment that we feel that happening, we immediately do this other thing. We immediately change course. Okay? Now we have to be careful that we don't jump the gun, because as soon as the student gets this adaptation, this new direction, this whatever, right? Then the partner is going to either resist or counter or not. So if he does the adaptation, but he didn't need to do the adaptation, he's going to run into something else. Okay? We have a drill when we take people to the gun range. Works better with revolvers, but you can do it with one round in the chamber for semi-automatics. Is people, because they fear the bang, or they actually, because they're watching movies and all that, right? They think that when they pull the trigger, there's a certain type of recoil that happens and whatnot. So, but we're trying to engineer out the flinch response. Okay? And so the reason that a lot of people throw shots is because when they pull the trigger, right, they're anticipating the bang, and so there's a flinch. And any little bit of flinch moves that muzzle, and right, you end up with this spray and pray kind of thing. So what we do is we load it up, put it in their hand, and then we'll take a coin and we'll lay it out by the sight on the barrel. Okay? And we either put a blank or we put a live round in the chamber. They don't know which one. So that's loaded up. Then we put the coin on there, right? And then they pull the trigger. Okay? Now, if it goes bang, that coin's going to go flying anyway. But if it goes click and they jerk and throw that coin, well, then they know. They've got a habit that has to be engineered out. Okay? Because a lot of us, whether we believe it or not, have bad habits that we don't know about until the teacher either points it out and calls us every time we do it, or we have an uke that exposes it every time, or we do drills that force that to happen. Okay? So based on field, what am I adapting to? I'm either adapting to he didn't counter, he didn't resist, I'm in control, okay? Or he does it. And then the more we change where the resistance or where the counter can happen in that flow, eventually now we can have where the uke can resist at any point or not do anything at all, counter at any point or not counter at all. And then the tori, now they're letting the attacker lead the dance. They're actually naturally responding based on what's going on and not the script and not their desires and not their imperative need to win or not lose. Or right? This is critical stuff. Okay, so how do we do this? Okay, so do I have the time here? Very, very quickly. All right, we're going to go through this 5-phase sparring model very quickly. Right, this was developed by a teacher of mine to break down the sparring, to break sparring down into workable stages. Okay? I credit Shoshi Malmstrom for me getting this, and then I've kind of played with it, worked with it with my students and whatnot. So this is not about steps. This is, if we could break down a kata and those 5 Ds, right? Defend, discern, discern, defend, disrupt, deliver, discern, those kind of things. It's not exactly it, but what we're doing is we're learning something. Think kata and sparring, okay? We're learning something. And then we're going to use sparring or randori drills to get really, really, really freaking good at that part. And then we add the next piece. And then we spar. So not only can we do it, but we also know when we don't have it. Okay, so let me explain. Phase 1 in the sparring here is kamae evasion. Okay? Oops, not evasion, evasion, right? So first thing we learn in training is what? Kamae. And then we learn kamae evasion, okay? Whether you've learned an entire kata, right? Whether you've learned shiaku, and so we got 1, we got 2, then we got feint, and then we've got these other, okay? Ultimately, kamae evasion. If you can't hit me, can't hurt me, can't grab me, can't hit me, whatever, can't hurt me, can't beat me. So kamae evasion, we start off, they learn it, they learn kamae, they learn the angles, they learn how to move off, and then now they don't know what the attack could be. It could be any single punch, grab, or kick, which means that it could also be a taekwondo thing. It could be, it's not always going to be taijutsu, right? And so they start off, right? Now they don't know what's coming. Different than a kata or a teacher's demonstration. Now they don't know. And so what they're going to have to do is learn how to wait a little longer so they can move to the right one, right? Because if they just default to one and he was throwing a roundhouse, well, even if they don't get kicked in the head, that arm can get knocked out of the way and now they're there. But we keep increasing speed. Nobody moves on to the next phase until they can do this phase at 80% full speed and they get it right 8 out of 10 times. And when I say right, it's not just kamae evasion. They didn't just avoid the kamae while being rough around the edges is the kamae. Okay? 8 out of 10 times, 80% speed. Okay? 80% full speed. Then we can move to the next one. So what's the next one, right? The next one is evade with a counter strike. Uke nagash, right? Or these uke uch, bang, I'm punishing them, right? Which starts the balance breaking process, okay? So people would think, well, okay, I'm here and I'm evading, so I just throw this thing, okay? But not every attack he throws can be caught by one of these. My timing could be a little behind, right? I could be trying to rush it, whatever. So what we're looking for is a well-placed, well-timed counter strike that is effective. And by effective, I don't mean we touched it. I mean it landed properly, okay? So at this level, not only are we going through a phase where we're learning how to time that and find the best time, work with the different types of uke nagash, those kind of things, but also when do I not have one so I don't throw this thing out and I missed and left myself wide open because now I'm unguarded, okay? Keep going up, speed, 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 him throwing different types of attacks, whatever, okay? When do I have one? When do I not have one? Which one that I've learned, right? 8 out of 10 times right, 80% full speed, right? Then we have evade with counter strike to a counter attack. This is to unbalance him. Okay? So what I get is an evade or evade with counter strike, and then, so think Jumonji no Kata. Boom, boom. I get that first shot on him kind of thing, right? Okay? Same thing, okay? But it's the assessment, it's the zanshin, this lingering awareness. When I deliver the counter strike, do I have the time to get that next shot in, or am I just going through the moves because, well, that's the way you do things, and then I get my teeth knocked out because I wasn't paying attention to whether or not I actually had an opening after the uke nagash or after the counter strike line, or after the parry or whatever, okay? So I'm not absentmindedly or stylistically going after shit just because, okay? So we see the transition, right? So now we're up to getting that first one in, and if we get that right, well, then we should just be able to do whatever, right? Well, see, everybody's now going to assume that stage 4 is, okay, now we just keep doing the next thing. Nope. Stage 4 backs up to here. Stage 4 is no hand evasion. No-handed evasion. What that means is we go back to the kama evasion, but we're going to have our hands behind our back, or we're going to take a sarifundo or something, tie them up, okay? So because what it can end up happening in here is we can inadvertently be doing the shot and then the move, the parry and then the move. And if we miss, we're going to lose teeth. Okay? So we want to double check to make sure that we actually have the primary kihon skills enforced, which is body movement only. Right? So no hand evasion means I can't counter strike him, nothing like that. He can throw whatever he wants at speed, and I'm simply going to be using evasion, and there's no chance that I'm going to just habitually throw something out there, okay? Again, 10 times, 80% full speed. Then we go to, when I say full sparring, I mean what most people think of when they think of sparring. Coming up through not even the ranks in this martial art, coming up through different styles and systems. Who's who of systems? Almost universally, we did kata stuff, or at least the teacher demonstrated certain moves and whatnot. And then we had the self-defense portion of the class, and then we had sparring, and sparring was this. You did your best, just jumping in there like it's a real fight. The problem with this is that going too fast, at speed, not knowing enough or whatever, your brain will default back to whatever you already have in your system. So you're not using anything new, which is why for most people in most arts, full sparring, if you look at the system that they've learned, they're only using one or two punches that they've learned, one or two kicks that they've learned, right? Might slip a third one in, whatever, okay? One or two stances. Everything just boils down because they found these things. They became a one or two hit wonder and just got good at that. Well, what if the fight doesn't go in that direction? What if the attacker sets you up so you can't do those things? What if you're injured in a way that okay? So this allows us to learn something, learn a skill, learn a kata, learn a technique, learn an aspect of it, and then drill it, because mistakes are going to happen. Okay? He could start to throw something and then not. And if I move just because, and I go to, now I'm giving away my secrets, and now he's going to adapt his assaults, and he's going to plan around my shit. Okay? So anyway, everybody wants to plan for when things go right. They're hoping that things go right. They're training so that it never goes wrong. But again, we're not fighting a moron. As a matter of fact, in a self-defense situation, we're probably planning or fighting somebody who, at least in his head, has planned out angles, what he's going to lead with, all that kind of stuff, and you're not going to even know when the fight started. Okay? My teacher used to remind me, by the time you realize the fight started, you might have already been punched 1, 2, 3 times, whatever, and you have to mentally and physically catch up. He has been in fight mode, at least in his head, for seconds, minutes. Shit, he could have woke up that morning and crawled out of bed already running through that sequence when he finds the right target, or you could have already been on his mind. So you're way behind by the time things start. Okay? All right. So, So just kind of tying everything back in with that hero's journey from Kuden on Monday. The hero's defining moments often come right after failure or pain. Okay? You make mistakes in the dojo, right? That's where we're going to fix it because we had it. Fantastic, right? So I don't resist them. I accept them as gifts. Okay? The warrior's mindset is not to freeze, but to keep going, to adapt, and overcome. When you refuse to stop, you create the possibility to win, even when everything has gone wrong. Okay? It's here that you're forced to focus on solving the problem, not on executing your cool techniques. Okay? So, again, the ability to keep going through pain, failure, and chaos is what separates survivors from victims. And that's it. Okay? So, again, there's not going to be a Friday masterclass this week because my mom got pulled into the hospital and whatnot, and I'm in fixing mode. She had emergency surgery last night, so I can't plan beyond today, right? So there won't be one. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be putting some links below, whatever platform you're on or whatever page you're on to look for these things. Okay, it'll be in the description section. Okay, for 2 of our top 3 programs that you'll find on the main page on onlineninjaacademy.com. Okay, that you'll find Ninpo. What are you going to find there? There's the Ninpo Elite program, that kind of thing. But Ninpo Master classes are Zoom level training classes from the dojo that folks who already have a grounding in the training and want to take it into those upper, intermediate, and advanced levels. That's for them. And for those people just getting started or want to make sure that they don't have any holes and gaps based on the training they have been doing for a long time, right? And want to make sure that they understand the key pieces that they need to make sure that this applies to modern self-defense and the most common attacks that happen in the Western world these days, right? Our 16-week Foundations of Ninja Self-Defense program can be found on there as well, okay? But either way, whether you want to get that or not, I will be putting a link in somewhere on the page, okay? Or you can grab one of the cheat sheets that I've made for my Inner Circle students, local, long distance, to help you with this side of Real Budo training. This cheat sheet is called 5 Quick Ways to Salvage Your Defense When He Stops Your Technique. Okay? It contains some of the most important lessons that I was given by my teachers and that I focus on for most of my serious students. Okay? It's the same training my teachers made us go through that I credit for being able to use this stuff in real time against really bad people. Okay? And not having to fall back on what I call tic-tac-toe or high school wrestling or whatever. Okay. So either way, find that link somewhere around. I'm going to have to like add it after I'm finished with the live part here. But download it. Whether you ever train with me or not, you can use that to start integrating things into your training. Okay. Because these are critical, really, really critical pieces. Okay. And I promise, because when you do, you will be leaps and bounds ahead of everyone who still thinks that techniques and frou-frou soft training, right, is enough when you're up against somebody who wants to beat, break, or kill you. Okay? All right. So in closing, please remember, every time you train, you face the same choice as the hero in every timeless story. That is to freeze, surrender, give up, or keep going. And warriors, especially ninja, keep going. All right? That's what I have for this one. Hopefully it serves you well. If not, I don't know why you stuck it out for so long. But again, I apologize for having to make some changes in the training schedule this week. But hopefully I'll see you next week for Kuden. Hopefully you grab the worksheet, right? That five quick wins for salvaging your defense. Grab that, put it to use, that kind of thing. And if nothing else, I'll see you next week on